Welcome to the Life After Sugar podcast, the podcast that's not just about sugar, but about your relationship with it and also with food and especially with yourself. So if you want to discover your life after sugar and hear inspiring stories from all kinds of people who also cut out sugar in their way, at their pace, for their own reasons, this is the podcast for you. Because when you take away the sugar, you can finally discover the real sweetness in your life. I'm your host, Netta Gorman, and today I'm talking with Michelle Montone, who is a mom who tells about when she had gestational diabetes and how she discovered intermittent fasting and how she transformed her relationship with food into a healthy and happy one where she's no longer completely focused on the food and on weight loss, but on herself and enjoying her life. We'll get to our chat in just a minute. And this week's episode is brought to you by the After Sugar Club, which is where you'll get the step-by-step guidance you need from me to help you let go of sugar and the emotional hold it has on you so that you can get to a place of freedom where you don't even need, want, or miss it anymore. So that you can break free from sugar for good and make your intermittent fasting lifestyle easy and natural. That's aftersugarclub.com and click on the green button, join the club. And if you're an intermittent faster, then I have 5 tips for you to help you get rid of cravings that may be getting in the way of you living your easy and natural intermittent fasting lifestyle. Go to aftersugarclub.com and download my 5 tips there. And if this is your first time here, welcome. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast so that it appears magically in your podcast player every Sunday. And if you've listened to several episodes before and you haven't yet left a review, could I ask you to scroll down, please, and rate the podcast and leave a lovely review to tell me how this podcast is helping you in your life after sugar. Has it inspired you to reduce sugar? Has it made you think about sugar a little bit differently? Let me know. I love reading your reviews. Thank you. All right, here's my chat with the fabulous Michelle. So I'm talking today with Michelle. Michelle, you're down in Florida, right? A little bit warmer.
That's correct. Hi, Netta. Thank you for having me. Yes, I'm down in Florida, near the Orlando area.
All right, cool. And Michelle, can you tell us a little bit about what your life was like when you were still eating all the sugary foods?
All the sugary foods. Yes, no problem. Well, it was kind of an evolution of sorts. It happened over many, many years. Mostly from the time I got married around age 30, things started to escalate. And then I started having children. Your hormones are completely all over the place. I'm 33, have my first child. And then I have my second child right before I turned 36. I got gestational diabetes in my second pregnancy. So I was really, really restricted in a time where you don't really feel like you need to be restricted because your hormones are completely raging. So that was difficult. And then after I had the baby and they said, you're free to eat whatever you want now, I went bonkers. And I mean, eating, I hate to admit it, it's just embarrassing, but I would buy Reese's peanut butter cups and I would just eat them by the bag. I'd stuff them in my freezer all the way in the back and I would just hide the wrappers in the trash, and it was shameful. And I blew up. I'm 5'3". I blew up to, I don't know. I would say I didn't weigh for a long time. I would say it was close to 200 pounds. Yeah.
And how did you feel in your body and in your mind at that size?
Heavy in so many ways. Heavy physically, heavy mentally. I felt lost. I felt a lot of pain. I had a lot of flare-ups in all of my problem areas with my neck and back. Um, like tons of migraines. And that's a whole nother story. That ended up being more than just the sugar, but the sugar definitely did not help that. It was hard. I made my already like pretty difficult day even more difficult, for no reason other than I was just eating a ton of sugar and processed food.
When you had gestational diabetes, was that the first time that you'd spent any amount of time not eating sugar?
For a while, yes. It's important to know that when I was a child, my mom was, I call her, a real health nut. She was, a little bit out there with some of her ideas and stuff, but she had our best interest at heart, but we never were allowed sugar as kids, ever. We weren't allowed any processed food. I didn't even taste soda, I don't think, until I was maybe at a birthday party when I was about 10 years old or so. So, I was deprived a lot as a kid of sugar. And, not that that's a terrible thing, but I feel like to a certain extent, you should, give into that so they don't become wanting sugar all the time for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, I agree.
So, it's a slippery slope with that. But anyhow, yes, with gestational diabetes, that was the first time in quite some time that I had complete restriction over sugar. And especially when you're pregnant, I mean, with my first child, I just let myself have whatever I wanted. I gained 60 pounds. I fortunately with the first one, I didn't get the gestational diabetes, but this was not the same.
For gestational diabetes, does that kind of just disappear once you give birth?
For the most part, I think they said like 90% or more of the time it does disappear once you give birth. However, in some rare cases, especially with people who already have diabetes or diabetes maybe runs in your family, it does not disappear. They make you get tested again once you do have the baby just to be sure it's gone.
And was yours gone?
Yeah, it was gone.
Okay. And so did they say, okay, you can go back to eating all the things, or did you say that inside of your head?
So get this. They told me in the hospital when I gave birth, before they even tested my blood to make sure, or I'm not sorry, not my blood, but do the insulin test with the drink. They told me in the hospital when I had the baby that go ahead and go back to your normal diet.
Yeah.
I said, don't I need to be tested first? They said, no, don't worry about it.
Yeah. Yes,
Okay.
it's not surprising. And there, our definition of normal, you were talking about your mum being a health nut and, you feeling deprived as a child. And then again, when you were pregnant with your second child, deprived. And that feeling of deprivation, in my humble opinion, now that I've had time to think about it and, living a sugar-free life, I wonder if it comes from our definition of what normal is in terms of eating.
It can. It definitely can. I know she had our best interest at heart. She was just doing what she thought was the best thing. Sugar, we know now, is, I call it the devil, but it can be a lot, but deprivation is a lot too. So how do we make this balance?
Yeah, very good question. Yes, a lot of people use these really kind of quite negative words about sugar, like the devil and a poison. And I like to have a more peaceful, neutral relationship with it, because in my opinion, it's just as bad to give it all this negative emotion and connotation than to have this other type of emotional relationship with it, which is, I've got to have it, I need it, I love it.
That's the fine line right there.
Right.
That's the fine line. Can
And
you live without it?
in between the two, this kind of I love it and then I hate it, and this love-hate relationship in between the two is a place of freedom and peace that is what I teach about.
I love that. And I love to be in that space because it's a much more calming place to be. You have a better day. And when you do have a day where you would like a treat, you don't feel guilt and you don't feel bad about it. And your life just moves on as normal and you allow your body to have it. I feel like really for me, it comes down to quality. And am I going to feel like crap after I eat it? If I
Absolutely.
do, it's not a treat.
Right. Yeah. What is a treat for you?
I mean, if we're being honest, Nutella. I love Nutella. I'm Italian and it's been around my house for a while, not as a child. I have to say I married into an Italian family and it kind of happened. But I enjoy it. I do like Nutella from time to time, and that is a treat for me.
Okay.
But not what it used to be. It used to be going and getting like a milkshake from like a fast food restaurant. And that if I did that now, I just can't imagine how I would feel. It would be awful.
Uh-huh. Yeah. And are there any treats for you that don't actually involve sugar?
Um, well, yeah. I don't think food should be a treat always. I love self-care and I love going to get facials, massages. I actually never thought I'd be doing this because I thought it was an unattainable, financial thing to have, that only rich people went to do these things. But now it's more become mainstream and you can go and get a membership at these places, but it forces me to do these things for myself and I consider that a definite treat. That's a treat. um, I feel like we shouldn't reward ourselves with food all the time. It's kind of ridiculous.
Mm, yeah. Yeah, I've sort of read that, you're not a dog, you don't need treats.
Yeah,
and
I've seen that.
and then again, my sort of approach to life is slightly different, where I'm like, well, everything's a treat. Just breathing in and out is a treat.
Being alive, waking up every day, being grateful for everything that you have, you know?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, it seems it's because seeing certain foods or certain things as treats in some way for me is like it supposes that everything else that is not seen as a treat is some kind of effort and suffering to get through, you
Right.
know? And it
Right.
just seems like
Absolutely.
such a sad way to live your life.
100%. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
And so once you got through this second pregnancy and went back to eating all the things, when was it that you realized, yeah, all the things are actually working against me rather than being a treat?
So it was in the end of 2019. My youngest at that point was about 2.5, and it was really bad. Like I was having a hard time just moving through the day, and I knew, and it was a long time coming. I had stepped on the scale for the first time in a long time, and I had already tried to lose some weight, so I knew there was a chance that some had come off. But I was doing it through just calorie deprivation, and trying to exercise on an over almost 200 pound, body. It was something else, but so I wasn't really losing at a fast rate. I might have lost a few pounds, but I got on the scale and I was at a doctor's appointment and I was like 190. And I like on the way home, I just made a decision. I'm like, I have to do something. I don't know what it is yet. This was in January. I was at my wellness visit. I had so many issues. I had so many health issues. Surprisingly, the doctor didn't mention my weight one time, not once. I went home thinking, well, maybe if I lost weight, just if I lost weight, maybe I could feel better. Can't possibly be it.
Right, yeah, there must be something. I mean, you were doing in theory what we're always told to do to lose weight: calorie restriction, exercising more, eat less, move more. And
Right.
it wasn't working out for you like it doesn't for millions of others.
No, I mean, it worked for me in my 20s. I did that a lot. I was a gym rat. I was in the gym 6 days a week. I was addicted to spinning and Pilates. I would I'd do back to back spin classes to burn extra calories, and I'd count my carbs every day. And I did kind of weird diets like the South Beach diet. And I even went as low as, selling, products to lose weight that ended up just costing me a ton of money and not working. And it was a mess. It was just a mess.
Yeah. Yes. And sometimes what works in your 20s, it works because you're in your 20s.
Well, yeah, you
And
have a
anything,
different.
yeah, your body can handle anything in your 20s, really. But
Right. Yeah.
but then
I,
in your 30s, two babies later, yeah, you were like, well, this isn't working for me anymore. So what did you do?
well, yeah, once you have kids, your body's just you're in a different body, totally, mentally, physically, and it's a lot. So when I hit that point in that after that wellness visit in January, I had gone to get my hair done, and I was overhearing somebody at the salon talk about intermittent fasting. And they had lost, I don't know, like 30 pounds or something like that. And she's like, I've been able to keep it off for a year, and it really works for me. And I was like, huh? I was like, so how does that work? She's like, I'm like, I've heard of it. I heard of it at that point, but I never really thought I could do it. And she's like, well, I just don't eat for like, 16 to 20 hours. And then I eat within like a timed window frame. And I'm like, that sounds crazy. Like there's no, there's no way. I was carrying snacks in my purse long before I had children. I didn't think I could do it. Um, and then I went home and I did a little digging and a little research of my own. Um, and I asked in just on my Facebook to my like personal friends, has anyone done this? Has anyone found success with this? And one of my good friends responded and said, I haven't tried it, but I'm in this group. This lady wrote this book. Her name's Jen Stevens, and the book's called Delay Don't Deny. And I invite you to this group and just see if it's something that you would want to do. And so I did. And um, I think I lingered in that group for about a week before I was super inspired. And I just started really slow. And that was that. I started January 24th of 2020. And that was the beginning of my weight loss journey.
And how did you begin? It's like, what was it that told you? Because I mean, you thought it was crazy as an idea, intermittent fasting,
Mm-hmm.
but what told you that eating less, moving more was not crazy, but intermittent fasting was crazy? I mean, how do we decide what's crazy and what's not? And then once you did make that kind of that connection, or you had that aha moment, how did you actually start intermittent fasting?
So, I mean, at that point, I thought it was crazy that I was doing all this exercise and restriction and nothing was working and nothing was happening. It was like I would gain 5 pounds and then lose 5 pounds, gain it and lose. I'm like, well, that's crazy, right? Doing the same
Right.
thing over and over again, not getting good results or any results. So then, I was like, I'm just going to try it. What's the worst that can happen? It's free. Like at that point I hadn't read the book. I was just seeing everybody like, oh, look at these people, they're all so healthy looking. Like, what are they doing? So I thought, what do I have to lose?
I just want to take a quick break to tell you about the sponsor of this podcast, Medicine with Heart, which is an international functional medicine clinic specializing in difficult chronic cases of hormone imbalance, Lyme disease, mold illness, and digestive dysfunction. You can sign up for a consultation with their team to see if they can help reverse your disease. Find out more about them at medicinewithheart.com.
I'm going to just start with something I know I can achieve. I think I started with about a 14-hour window because I was the type of person that got up in the middle of the night to eat. So I thought if I could achieve 14 hours, then maybe the next day I could add a little bit more time. And that's kind of how I did the first 2 weeks. I think I added a maybe 30-minute time every day. And before I knew it, it was a lot easier than I had expected, first of all. A lot easier. And I stuck to the clean fast, just black coffee, water. sparkling, unflavored water. Um, but I think after about 3 months time, I was I was averaging at that point maybe like 18 hours a day. And
Wow.
that was just the start. And I had, I think in 57 days, lost about 17 pounds. And I think in the first week or two, I'd say the first 10-ish days, a lot of the health issues I was having, like the really pressing ones, had just magically disappeared and gone away. And I
Yeah.
was like, is this a coincidence or is this for real? Like, what is happening here? So
It's
I knew I
amazing.
had something.
Yes, yes, definitely. And did you ever, in the first few days, weeks, and months, did you ever feel hungry?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I felt hungry. Sure. Uh, it's important to know you're going to feel hungry. And that's just, it's natural. Your body's used to waking up and eating every day. How long have you done it? I woke up for 38 years every single day and ate breakfast. I woke up in the middle of the night and would eat sometimes. So I was just used to eating at certain points. So I would just kind of just drink a lot of water. I would have some pink salt. It does help through some of the hunger pains if you can tolerate it. Mineral water is really helpful. I went onto the groups. I looked to my community. I think that's really important. And I really, really focused on changing my mindset and focusing on getting myself out of this trap that's diet culture.
Yeah. Yeah, diet culture that has failure built in, as far as I can tell, you
It's
know?
failed so many people.
Right, absolutely. And so it's funny how in what's so-called normal eating patterns, which in my opinion is far from normal, we eat several times a day, 5, 6, 7, you're getting up in the night to eat, and we're still feeling hunger, what we consider to be hunger. And
Mhm.
then we experience intermittent fasting, and it's after a certain sort of period where we're adjusting to a new
Yeah.
way of doing things, new way of
Mhm.
eating. I don't know if it's like that for you, but I remember feeling, I don't want to eat now. I'm just not hungry. And then thinking,
Yep.
well, what's going on?
Mhm.
Is
Yep.
that how you?
It after you have, like you said, after your body's adjusted, after you work through those glucose stores and you tap into your fat, um, there is kind of like a metabolic switch that happens, and you go from being like having these hunger pains and kind of, I call it white knuckling a little bit sometimes, but you go to like this other place where you have newfound energy and you have less brain fog and you don't feel hungry anymore. It's more of like you just want this, you have this kind of like buzz and this energy, and
Yeah,
it's great.
isn't it? It is. And it's like, how come I'm only eating 2 times a day, sometimes once, and I'm not feeling hungry,
Mhm.
whereas I was eating all the time and I was feeling hungry? What does that even say about that sensation that we call hunger?
It says that it's just the way we've been made up. If this is something we've done, like, since we were out of the development stage, I think that it would be different. I wish I had known about this, when I was in my 20s. I have friends who have parents that are kind of, they've always been very slim and trim. And we've always been like, how does she stay so like thin and healthy? And like, I don't understand. It just, I'm like, I'm discovering now, well, she's been doing just natural intermittent fasting like her whole life. I had no idea. But
Yeah,
yeah, it goes back to that, and it's just the way we've been taught. The personal trainer still eat 6 small meals a day. You go into a gym looking for advice with weight loss, or even to a doctor. Most doctors will say eat 6 small nutritious meals a day or whatever, and work out more, move more, eat less, that whole
yeah.
thing.
And it takes, I find, a certain type of personality to question that and to look elsewhere, and you have that, all the more power to you for
Thank
doing that,
you.
'cause it's not easy, is
Yeah,
it?
it's not. And I applaud anyone who looks and thinks outside the box and looks to intermittent fasting. It's natural.
Yes.
It's your body's natural ability. to cleanse itself and your natural ability to lose excess weight and live at a healthy weight.
Absolutely. And as you were on this path and using intermittent fasting as the powerful tool that it is, were you finding out about your relationship with sugar and your habits with the sugary foods?
Well, I went through after I did read the book, I kind of went through the first month or so, not really changing what I was eating, like she was advising to do, and just sticking with my fasting and getting the fasting windows down. And I thought, well, this is great. I can eat whatever I want as long as I'm fasting. And I did. I lost some weight at first, like 10 pounds, and then it kind of just like stopped. And I'm like, well, maybe. And every single time I ate, like, something that was in my old habits, like a Reese's peanut butter cup, or I had like a fast food meal, I would get sick, like physically sick.
Hmm.
Sometimes yes, sometimes no. I would just kind of feel like garbage afterwards. I'd get heartburn or whatever, and I would just feel like garbage. And I just started to feel the effects of the food on me more so than before. Before it was just like I always just felt like crap. I didn't really know what was causing it. Um, and then it was more like, oh, I ate that, and then I felt like that. So no, I don't want that anymore. That's not good for me.
Yeah. Yes. So you were experiencing these periods of peace around food, and then
Yeah,
suddenly so that made you more sensitive to the
it
effects of
did.
food.
It did. And it made me more aware, and I didn't want it anymore. I didn't want the candy. I didn't want the McDonald's or whatever it was. I felt good after I ate, like, a lot of vegetables and like an avocado or an egg, or just real food, just good, nutritious, real food.
Yeah. And it's funny because I do see this in the intermittent fasting community where it's like eat whatever you want. And so it's funny what people assume that means. And actually, it
Yeah.
means different things to different people. But when I say that I eat whatever I want, people jump to the conclusion that I'm eating all the fast food and the sugar and everything. And I'm like, yes, but that's not what I want to eat.
Yeah.
This is what you want, but it's not what I
Yes.
want, not anymore.
Yeah. I always tell people, what works for me is not necessarily going to work for you. Like, some people enjoy a keto diet, or whatever it is. Do I restrict myself? Do I watch what I eat as far as, what it is? Yeah, because I want to, and I like to eat a certain way. Do I restrict every, I know I enjoy myself sometimes. I
Yeah.
feel it's important that you do.
And is it restriction when you're choosing what you're eating?
No, I don't think so. I
Mm,
don't think so at all, because it's your choice. I
right.
don't feel restricted. I feel free to do what I want that works for my body. I found, through intermittent fasting and getting to this weight and being able to maintain it for over a year, I've come to the conclusion that, like, I don't really like meat anymore. I don't know. Like, I'm just not like a big meat eater. Do I completely avoid it? No, absolutely not. Like, I do have lean proteins, and I love fish, but I try to stay away from a lot of heavier meats. That's one thing I just have found in my journey. Is that going to work for somebody else? I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't work for me. I love all the
Yeah,
the
I've a lot of people love carnivore diet and keto and stuff, and that's always like, I've tried keto in the past, and it really like hurt me, like digestively. It wasn't sustainable for me at all. I
so
would
be
be
it.
very inflamed from it.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. It's not a one size fits all, whatever this.
no.
Yeah. So really, I think intermittent fasting allows you that space, a certain number of hours, but also just that head space to actually think about, what do I want? What makes me feel good?
Yeah, it does. And it really takes the I have two small children, so I'm constantly, they're boys, so they're very hungry all the time. So I'm constantly planning food and making snacks and doing stuff for them. it makes my life for me a lot simpler because I already have it. I have like 4 or 5 things that I rotate that I really really enjoy that my body loves, and those are my fast breakers, so to speak. And then I plan out dinner. My husband fasts as well, and we some days he does longer. Like he'll have a lunch window. He does OMAD usually, and he'll have a lunch window, um, and then I don't really do lunch windows every day, but something I'm trying to experiment with. But so we'll do like dinner together usually. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely been a blessing for me.
Amazing. Amazing. And so you lost weight, which was like your primary goal, was it?
That was my primary goal, and it was an interesting experience when I got to the goal because I didn't really know what to do at that point. It was funny because when I went back, because I had read at that point, Delay Don't Deny, I read Fast, Feast, Repeat. I read, Feast Without Fear, which is, in my opinion, the best of them all because, I mean, for me, it was because it was a turning point. It really taught me how to eat for my body. So after that, I had read all these books. I got to my goal and I realized I hadn't read the chapter on maintenance. I had no idea what I was doing. And even like my family, my mom, everybody would be saying, "Are you going to keep doing this now that you've reached your goal?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm trying to figure that out." So I at first I kind of celebrated and I did gain a few pounds. And I'm like, "Wait a second, let me hold up here." So I went back and I read up on maintenance and I'm like, oh, I'm going to go bring this back into where I was when I was losing on my normal schedule when I was losing. And I did that for about 3 or 4 months. And then I kind of eased into a maintenance schedule at that point. And so, yeah, I mean, once I got into a maintenance schedule, now I do Monday through Friday. Like I try to hit 18 hours. If I don't, it's not the end of the world. And sometimes I go over.
Yeah.
Um, Kind of by accident a lot. But the weekends I just kind of loosen up a little bit and do like 16 hours and with an 8 hour window or something like that.
All right. Yes, because that's also part of the diet mentality is sort of this temporary, I'll do something, fill in the blanks, crazy, for a
Yeah.
certain amount of time until I get to my goal weight. And it's
Yeah.
all about the weight. It's not, it sort of doesn't allow everything else in life to be reevaluated. It's about the weight. You get to the goal weight or not sometimes, but when you do, it's like, well, I got there. Now I'm going to go back, and then we're
And then, right.
surprised that we put the weight back on.
Well, I was really interested in a lifestyle, because it's not intermittent fasting is in no way a diet or a quick fix. And I had worked so hard to get where I was, and it took, it didn't take an extraordinary amount of time, but it took time. It took,
Yeah.
I think 10 months to get to my goal weight, and that's not terrible considering how long it took to pack on those pounds. But yeah, we think we get there and we just go back. And so whatever you do choose for your weight loss, I always tell people, is it something you can sustain for the rest of your life? Because
Yeah.
once you hit that goal, are you going to be able to live this lifestyle forever? Are you going to be able to count, points, calories, or check into an app and pay $100 a year for it every day? I don't know. Can you do
Yeah.
that? Intermittent fasting is the easy choice to me.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yes, I get that. And I remember reading in one of Janine Roth's books that she was saying when she got to her goal weight, and then she was like, well, what am I gonna think about now that I don't have weight loss to think about anymore? It's like it
Yeah,
consumes your thoughts for so many years.
it does.
Yeah. And then when you don't have to think about that, it's just life, what I call life after sugar, but it's not exclusively about sugar. Then what do you think about now that you don't need to think about weight loss?
Everything else that, my life is just very busy. So I have a lot to do. I mean, I have a podcast now, and like you, I'm just kind of busy with that. And I run a support group on Facebook with like over 9,000 members, and I'm busy with that. And I I really do want to help people. That's my goal now, and it's really what keeps me going, and what I think about most is just how many people can I help get their health back? How many people can I motivate today?
Yeah,
If it's just one, I'll take it.
absolutely.
That's what
Yeah.
I think about. I think about my kids, obviously. It's always, it's kind of, a circus with the kids, but yeah, and then I think about other things, but my focus isn't, yeah, obsession with food, because I grew up in an Italian house. You obsessed with food all day. It's like, what are you going to have for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and two snacks?
Yes,
I don't
yes.
think about that all day.
Right. It's amazing. And it's also, it seems almost un, unimportant what foods you are or aren't eating, because it's no longer all about the food. You can actually concentrate on other aspects of life, including, as you say, and as I experience, helping other people.
Helping other people, or just like focusing on yourself for a minute, and finding your inner peace. Go out for that walk and enjoy nature, and just enjoy your family, enjoy each other. Don't be so focused on a number, and focus on a feeling. That's what I like to tell people. Find that feeling, and do whatever you can to stay there.
Lovely. Yes. And I often say, between you and me, I don't care what you eat. I care how you feel.
That's absolutely true. I couldn't agree more. I care how
Mm.
you feel. Do you feel great today? Or do you feel like garbage? Let's identify it, because more than not, it's what you're consuming. You are what you eat. Yes, you are.
Yeah,
It's your choice.
absolutely. Absolutely. And there's power in that choice.
There's so much power in that choice. And
Yeah.
that's when you find that power, that's when you can sustain this. That's when you can sustain a healthy weight. That's when you can really make your choice and choose when you're going to have your sugar, choose when you're going to have your treat, and not feel bad about it at all.
Yeah, absolutely. Wonderful. Tell us the name of your podcast, please.
My podcast is called Fast and Fabulous,
Fast
and
and
it's pretty
Fabulous.
much on every platform you could find now. It's on Apple and anywhere else.
Yeah, wonderful. And what's the name of your Facebook group?
We got permission from Jen Stevens to use the Delay Don't Deny, name. So it's called Delay Don't Deny Advanced Support for Clean Fasting.
All right. Wonderful. Wonderful. So people can get in touch with you by
Yeah, thank
listening to
you.
your podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much.
You're very welcome. I'll put those two links with the show notes. And,
Wonderful.
I just find it so inspiring that you were open-minded enough to look elsewhere than what you've always been told.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm just trying to help everybody else kind of think that way too. But it is kind of difficult. People kind of side eye me still, even though this is becoming more mainstream. It still gets a bad rap. It's, people like to assume things, and there's a lot of bad information out there. So yeah, it's definitely, it's something that I try to at least inspire, or put my 2 cents in, so to speak, to somebody every single day.
Yeah, wonderful. You're doing a great job.
Thank you. You are too. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. I don't know about you, but I find it so inspiring to talk with Michelle. And in fact, after our interview together, we became friends and we've done a few live videos together in Michelle's Facebook group, as well as on my Life After Sugar YouTube channel and the Life After Sugar Facebook page. Because what I found is that people who do intermittent fasting, like Michelle and like myself, well, we usually have many other things in common too, including the desire to look after ourselves better and to put ourselves at the top of our list of priorities, because when you're eating once or twice a day, as Jen Stevens says, you want to make sure that your food is window worthy. Check out Michelle's podcast, Fast and Fabulous. I was honoured to be on episode 10 on May 2nd, 2022. And if you want some free resources about what real whole foods are and where the processed food companies hide those sneaky sugars, then head on over to my website aftersugarclub.com and click on the tab What to Eat. You'll find 3 videos there, one about which foods don't have added sugars, another about how to find these foods at the grocery store, and the 3rd video is about what's the deal with fermented foods, because these are also whole foods that look after your gut health, and gut health is central to your general health. And while you're there on the website at aftersugarclub.com, you can download your simple guide to getting more energy. Just click on the tab Simple Guide, or download my 5 tips for getting rid of cravings. Whether you're an intermittent faster or not, cravings can really stop you from feeling free with your food. So download those 5 tips at aftersugarclub.com. And you can get more free resources and tips on the Life After Sugar YouTube channel, the Life After Sugar Facebook page, and come and subscribe to my Instagram account at My Life After Sugar. That's where I post pictures of what I eat, what I do, sometimes some inspiring quotes, or sometimes just pictures of our cat, so that you can see that it's totally possible to live a fun and active life even if you don't eat sugar. And if you're ready to get some personal guidance, support, and accountability so that you can let go of sugar and feel more confident in your food choices and feel healthier because you've finally made peace with sugar so that you get to a point where you don't need it or miss it anymore, then the After Sugar Club is the place for you. Together with myself and a group of other like-minded health-conscious people, you'll get all the guidance you need in our supportive and friendly community so that you don't just change what you eat, you change how you think and how you see sugar so that you can enjoy the real sweetness in your life. Check it out at aftersugarclub.com. And if this podcast is inspiring you to take one more step towards your life after sugar, then could I ask you to please scroll down and leave the podcast a lovely 5-star rating and leave a short review to let me know how this podcast is inspiring you to break free from sugar your way and find the real sweetness in life. Thank you for listening. That's it for this week. Keep in touch and see you soon for another episode.